What's up, guys? Welcome back to the shop. I'm David Mazet, Mazet Formula. This is Mazet Formula 7. It's a 4-rotor turbocharged rotary engine, Mazda RX-7 1993. Been working on it for a few years here, and it's been out and about. It's been making some power, driving and testing and tuning, and it's been on the track a couple times, but it's a process. These things take a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of unique stuff. I wanted to build something that was different, something that had a unique sound, kind of motivating to work on something that's a little bit of a challenge, you know, something that's unique and takes some time. So that's what I'm doing. I'm working right now, and I just got these new brakes on the car. So I'm going to show you guys the front brakes here. These are based on the Ferrari F50 caliper for the front of the Ferrari F50. Also similar to the Dodge Viper 2003 rear caliper. This is a 4-piston with a 330 millimeter rotor. This is an aluminum bell, 2-piece design. It's a little bit bigger than the stock brake. Well, it's significantly larger in diameter, and it's significantly thicker. So if you can see the thickness here, these are directional vane rotors. What that means is that when the wheel's turning, it creates a vacuum effect and sucks the hot air off the back of the rotor itself. Reason we want to upgrade the rotor size here is for heat dissipation, more surface area, and larger pistons in the calipers, more surface area on the pistons. And then we've upgraded the brake master cylinder to a design from Chase Bays, thanks to Chase and guys over there at Chase Bays for setting me up on that. This is the master cylinder over here. Maybe going up to a dual master cylinder setup, either inline or side by side with a bias bar. Been doing a lot of things to the car lately. Took the oil pump off, sent it out to have it rebuilt. Should be back shortly. You can see it's missing here. That's the drive cable that drives the rear fuel pump off the rear drive on the back of the pump. And you know, I just want to be proactive and stay on top of everything. There's not much room for error on these cars. If you do them right, they will forgive you and they will run correctly. But if you do them wrong, they will not forgive you. Any mistakes that you make, if you don't keep the oil pressure and the fuel pressure up, you know, change your filters, you'll have issues. So this right here is our Quaife 69G sequential gearbox. This is a 6-speed close ratio. This will be going in the car soon, in approximately 2 or 3 weeks, once we receive the adapter plate for the front. So this right here is the new oil cooler for the transmission, and it's a 25-row design. I have it mounted with some rubber mounts to the frame of the car. And so this is going to run 8 AN lines, 1 in, 1 out, 90-degree fittings, stainless steel braided down the chassis. And the reason I'm using that is because the back half of the transmission, the rear drive of the transmission, or the rear shaft, spins this pump right here. This is a mechanical gear oil pump. And the reason I really like that is because on the Quaife transmission, having a mechanical gear pump makes it very reliable, but it also modulates the amount of flow. So when you're sitting there at a stoplight and you're not running the transmission, your wheels aren't turning, you're not excessively cooling the oil and sending it through the oil cooler unnecessarily. And the reason I say that is because if you wanted to have an oil cooler circuit on most transmissions, you'd have to use an electric pump, like a Tilton pump. And you probably want to end up having that thermostatically controlled, so you're not running at full blast when you don't need to, because you'll wear the pump out and you'll have unnecessary amperage, and you might overcool the system. But with a mechanical drive like this, more than likely, when you're sitting there idling, warming the car up and stuff like that, it probably would be spinning a little bit, but I doubt it, because there's not going to be it's more than likely connected to the rear drive. And so if the output shaft's not turning, then there's really no demand to be cooling. So that's something that I really like about it. Plus, we don't have to worry too much about pressure drop influencing flow a whole lot, because mechanical pumps don't seem to drop off as hard when you give them restriction of line. So we can get away with 6 or 8 AN lines to having to run something big. So that's what I've been working on recently. We got the rear brakes on the car. That's what I've been working on recently. We've got these rear brakes on the car here. These are Brembo 4-piston calipers. And so it's all going to be about dialing in the brake bias between the front and the rear. Like I said, we might just use one master cylinder for simplicity, but it would probably be safer to have two. Deleted the rear e-brake. I find that it's unnecessary. I'm going to put a line lock on the car that is activated by a push button on the steering wheel, so you'll have roll control if you're on a hill, something like that. And then we might put the Chase Bay's handbrake in the car, which actually has its own master cylinder, and intersect the rear brake caliper. And that's just for ease of use. If you want to go on and off of a trailer and you want things to be easy, when you're backing off the trailer, whatnot. But you've also got a line lock, which could be highly effective in those situations. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I'm going to show you some more footage of these brakes. I'm going to take the other set out of the box, get you some close-up images of them. I'm using the Power Stop pads on the street, the Power Stop track pads, front and rear. On the racetrack, we're going to use the DTC 70s up front, more than likely the DTC 30s in the rear. The reason we're going to have such a temperature differential there is because the rear brakes are pretty large, and believe it or not, I think they might actually be too cool, right? So we want to keep them with the same temperature. And if you don't have a lot of bias on the rear of the car, because you don't need a lot, because you have big rotors back there and 4 pistons as compared to the stock 1-piston rear caliper, then you might need to make those adjustments to temperature range with your compounds. And if you don't get the pads up to temperature, they're not as effective, and they wear your rotors out. So on the track, we're probably going to run a DTC 70 up front and a DTC 30 in the rear. And then maybe we'll end up with like an 80-70 or a 70-60 split. We'll just have to see. And we'll use brake temperature strips on the calipers or the bell or whatever to try to figure out, what the temperatures are running on the brakes, so that we can choose the best compound in the future. So it's all about data acquisition on that. And yep, so from here, just waiting on the oil pump so we can fire the car back up. Considering a 3-stage dry sump. I do not know if it'll be necessary, because haven't had any oil pressure issues ever since I've installed this AccuSump. But then again, we have not thrown the car in heavy G-force in turns. So we just have to see how it works out. Keep an eye on logs, keep an eye on oil pressure. And the name of the game right now is just to get the car up and running and get back on the street, have some fun, get it tuned on the sequential transmission. And then I'm sort of flipping a coin between dry sump or pneumatic paddle shifting. I can't afford both, so we'll just have to see which way to go. Now, the car is not frequently put on the track, so if it doesn't have oil pressure issues, I'd love that, because a dry sump is a lot of maintenance. You've got multiple stages on the pump, and that's multiple stages that can wear out. Really big lines too. It takes up a lot of real estate. You're looking at like 16 and 20 AN lines in some situations, and it just opens up room for leaks and failures and just a whole lot of stuff. So I have nothing against dry sumps. I think they're really great. But if you don't need it, it's totally unnecessary. So let's see if we can get the car running great, see how it performs. I want to see how it does on racing slicks, in a turn, high speed, flat out, and see what the oil pressure does. We have a nice pan from Built to Apex that is baffled with trap doors, and I'll show you some pictures of it later, and we'll get into detail on that in the future. So thanks for checking out the car. Super excited to be able to put these brakes on, and gonna get back to it. Y'all have a good one.